In 1932, amid the economic struggles of the Great Depression, Australia waged an extraordinary campaign against a surprising adversary: emus, known as the Great Emu War. This bizarre and infamous conflict saw the Australian military attempt to cull thousands of emus, wreaking havoc on farmlands in Western Australia. However, these large, flightless birds proved more resourceful than anticipated, turning what was intended to be a swift operation into a comical failure and a point of national embarrassment. This expanded account dives deeper into the roots of the conflict, the unexpected resilience of the emus, and the enduring legacy of this unusual chapter in history. Chapter 1. The problem emerges: the rise of the emus. The Great Emu War was set against the backdrop of post-World War I Australia. After the war ended in 1918, the government initiated a scheme to provide returning soldiers with farmland in Western Australia. These soldier settlers were encouraged to take up agriculture as a way to rebuild their lives and contribute to the nation's food supply. Initially, this plan seemed promising. The settlers cultivated wheat and other crops on the vast, arid lands of Western Australia. However, the 1930s brought a series of devastating challenges. The global Great Depression caused wheat prices to plummet, leaving farmers with dwindling profits. Adding to their woes, the government's promised subsidies failed to materialize, intensifying financial hardships. Just as farmers grappled with these economic pressures, another problem literally came flocking in: emus. These large, flightless birds, native to Australia, had long been part of the region's ecosystem. Standing up to 6 feet tall and capable of running at speeds of 30 miles per hour, emus were formidable creatures. During their annual migration from inland areas to the coast, they discovered the cultivated wheat fields of Western Australia. What followed was an agricultural disaster. Emus, numbering in the tens of thousands, tore through fields, eating crops, trampling plants, and wreaking havoc. Fences proved ineffective against the onslaught, as emus easily found ways to breach or bypass them. Desperate farmers turned to the government for help, pleading for a solution to save their livelihoods. Chapter 2. A military solution. The Australian government, under intense pressure from the farmers, devised an unconventional response. Instead of deploying agricultural resources, they chose to send the military. The reasoning was straightforward. If the military could wield machine guns and artillery in war, surely they could handle a flock of birds. The operation was led by Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. His team was armed with 2 Lewis machine guns, a type of weapon typically used in combat, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The government's decision to deploy military resources was controversial, but they framed it as a necessary response to an urgent agricultural crisis. The farmers were optimistic. The soldiers were confident. What could go wrong? Chapter 3. The campaign begins. The campaign began on November 2nd, 1932, near the town of Campion, where a large flock of emus had been spotted. The soldiers set up an ambush, waiting for the birds to approach. As the emus came into range, the soldiers opened fire with their machine guns, but the emus were not so easily defeated. Upon hearing the gunfire, the flock scattered in all directions, breaking into smaller groups. The soldiers managed to kill only a handful of birds before the rest escaped. Over the following days, Major Meredith's team attempted to refine their tactics. They pursued the emus using trucks equipped with machine guns, hoping to outmaneuver the agile birds. However, the rough terrain made it nearly impossible to aim accurately while driving. The emus, meanwhile, displayed remarkable coordination and speed, evading capture and bullets with surprising ease. Chapter 4. The emus strike back. As the campaign progressed, the emus seemed to adapt to their adversaries' strategies. Observers noted that the birds moved in loosely organized groups, with some acting as sentinels to warn others of approaching danger. The soldiers, despite their firepower, found themselves repeatedly outmaneuvered. Major Meredith later described the emus as highly intelligent and noted their ability to evade even the most carefully planned ambushes. On one occasion, a machine gun jammed after just a few shots, allowing an entire flock to escape unscathed. The emu's resilience and resourcefulness became the stuff of legend. Farmers and soldiers alike began to joke that the birds were not mere animals, but avian tacticians. Chapter 5. The campaign ends in defeat. After several weeks of relentless and mostly fruitless efforts, it became clear that the military operation was failing. By December, Major Meredith reported that his team had used over 2,500 rounds of ammunition, but had only killed about 300 emus. The government decided to end the campaign, deeming it an embarrassing failure. The soldiers withdrew, leaving the emu population largely intact. Farmers were left to fend for themselves, relying on fences and bounty systems to control the birds. The media had a field day with the story, mocking the government's inability to win a war against birds. International headlines ridiculed the incident, cementing its place in history as one of the most unusual and humorous military failures ever recorded. Chapter 6. Lessons learned. The Great Emu War was a stark reminder of the complexities of wildlife management. While the military approach was well-intentioned, it failed to account for the adaptability and resilience of the emus. The incident highlighted the need for more sustainable and humane methods of addressing ecological challenges. In the years that followed, farmers implemented improved fencing techniques to protect their crops. The government also introduced bounty programs to incentivize controlled culling, which proved more effective than machine guns. Chapter 7. The Legacy of the Great Emu War. Today, the Great Emu War is remembered as a fascinating and humorous episode in Australian history. It has inspired books, documentaries, and even video games, capturing the imagination of people around the world. For Australians, it serves as both a source of laughter and a reminder of the unpredictable relationship between humans and nature. The emu's victory is often celebrated as a testament to the resilience of wildlife and the folly of underestimating the natural world. Conclusion. The Great Emu War of 1932 was more than a quirky historical anecdote. It was a reflection of the struggles of Australian farmers, the challenges of coexisting with wildlife, and the unintended consequences of human intervention. In the end, the emus triumphed not only in their fight for survival, but also in securing a permanent place in history. Their story continues to intrigue and entertain, reminding us that nature often has the last laugh. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing facts.